Welcome to my channel. On today's video we're going to be reacting every era of the UFC explained. It is made by Leo Cooper MMA, which is one of the best UFC channels that is coming up. So check out his original video and let's react to the every era of the UFC. Here we go.
The thrill, the agony, and everything in between. This is every era of the UFC explained. The very first format of the UFC over 30 years ago was naturally nothing like the sanitized and safe product we know today. 1993 marked the company's inception, an idea not based in any sense of reality nor professionalism. Instead, directly the opposite.
So whose idea was it?
It was Art's.
It was Art's idea to have a bunch of guys fight.
Absolutely.
Now let me show you what we're gonna do. Since it's pay-per-view, it's a tournament.
So this is Art Davis. So this is the guy that like found UFC, I guess, and the reason their logo also
start selecting
funny.
the toughest, meanest, ugliest, heaviest, most qualified people we could.
I said, you're gonna have one guy from jiu-jitsu. I said, it'll be one of the 8.
There's always been questions in the martial arts, like what if a karate guy fought a judo guy, and what the Ultimate Fighting Championship did is say, let's find out.
They put on this event. The pay-per-view rivaled boxing and WWE at the time. That first pay-per-view did so well, they were like, well, Jesus, we got to do this again.
A freak show event, marketed as such. No
Wow.
weight classes, no real comprehensive
Look at the
rule set.
size. Oh
A moat
my
filled
God.
with alligators instead of an octagon even proposed at one point. The early
Imagine alligator, like they want
the
the
UFC
dead.
clearly relied on the volatile nature of a shock and awe presentation, and whilst its early novelty led to financial success, that shine would soon wear off as reality set in. To the masses, this was a sport permanently stained with the blood sport namesake, and that result would soon have dire consequences thanks to the actions of one man.
Actually, Senator John McCain stepped in and talked the cable companies into pulling the plug on him.
And everyone can sit there and say why John did it.
What is Senator McCain's argument? How did his letters to 50 governors get this outlawed?
There was no referee, there was nothing. It was terrible. There was people knocking them other down, sitting on top of them and smashing them in the face.
Here, my elbows in.
I mean, in a way, you have a good point. I mean, if there was no referee, there is no weight class. There is nothing.
That's not a sport. That's
Yeah,
a
there
throwback
is
to
like street
Roman
fighting.
Coliseum. What it was at the beginning was human cockfighting. It was.
For all of the problems that John McCain's words brought, they were a necessary evil. They defined the Dark Ages, hoping to stimulate change within a sport that sorely needed it, slowly evolving it from unruly and unsafe to something with potential. Weight classes, time limits, and proper regulation. There had been improvements, but this long-fought battle for legitimacy would leave the company in financial ruin come 2001. In the wake of this collapse, Dana White and the Fertitta brothers would step in as long-term admirers to become the UFC's new owners. When most would call them ignorant or even deranged, they saw the potential and they had the passion to save the sport they love and turn its fortunes around.
I'm on a call with Bob Meyerowitz, the owner of the UFC. He flipped out and said, you know what? There is no more fucking money. And I was like, holy shit. This thing's in trouble. So when I saw this opportunity and I thought that this thing might be for sale, so I called the brothers, they were in Miami, and I said, I think this thing's in trouble. I think we could buy the UFC. I don't know how, I don't remember the timeline, but within the next 2 months, we ended up owning the UFC for $2 million.
And all of a sudden we owned a business that we knew nothing about.
Him and Frank called me over.
2 million. I mean, that was a lot of money probably at that time, but imagine how the UFC was right now.
They're like,
2
we want you to
million.
be the president of the company, we want you to run it.
Dana White, president of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Dana, congratulations on the first show.
Look at Dana White with the hair.
What we want to do is we want to make this the Super Bowl of mixed martial arts. We want to make it more fan-friendly. We want to get the crowd involved.
Oh my, even his
we want to
voice.
bring back the best fighters in the world.
The Zuffa era had officially begun, personified by progression, yet also
The
growing
what era?
stability. Efforts to both steady the ship and eradicate any misconceptions around MMA from the masses. Left with nothing but a wooden octagon, a dozen or so fighter contracts, and those sacred 3 letters, the new owners had a mountain to climb.
So our philosophy was, we think if we do this the right way, build this like a real sport, and these are real athletes, we think this thing could really be big someday. The marketing for this thing was, you know, 2 men enter the cage, 1 man leaves, and you know, the most brutal, bloody, violent sport in the world. It was basically old marketing by the old owners just to make it sound crazy.
You can do whatever you want. There's
Not
no
anymore. No, it's not exactly that way. You know, the image, you know, fighting in a cage. Everybody goes, well, what are you, crazy?
The human cockfight.
Joe Rogan with hair. Dana White with hair. This is crazy.
Comment from John McCain. It's
Actually, Joe looks good with the hair.
Once you get that name associated with you, it's all anybody associated with the brand or with the business.
We bought a company that wasn't allowed on pay-per-view. Is on pay-per-view.
On top of the rule set additions, the whole
That is
perception of
crazy.
the company would have to be
I
shifted.
don't even know
From
that
a
is
freak show, sporting niche,
pay-per-view
to
for
showcase
that.
the highest precipice of fighting. Structured events, experienced fighters, and a raised production value all added. To even get these newly bolstered events sanctioned was half of the battle. But slowly and surely, the US had begun to open its doors to the world of mixed martial arts. Pioneered by Nevada, MMA was finally broadcasted on television, and by 2004 had established a beachhead across the country through a return to cable pay-per-view. Aided by a legendary rivalry between Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz that caught the eye
The
of many,
Iceman.
there was cause for some optimism. But for the owners, that inner belief in their product and the investment behind it could only take them so far. Soon both were faltering, and the UFC was on the brink of collapse once again.
They were calling Dana up, going, look for a buyer. Let's find a buyer. We got to get out of this. Like,
Because every single show we did, we were losing money on.
we're $44 million in the hole, and this cage fighting shit, obviously
44
this is too
million.
brutal for America. They're not really into it.
Literally calls me the next morning, 7 in the morning, and says, fuck it.
I'm not ready to tap out. I'm not ready to give in. We got to figure out a way to make this work.
In Coliseums years ago, it was an art form
Oh, wow.
admired, then lost to the ages.
44
UFC
million
had
is
to bring
crazy.
that same feeling back in a modern society, one that was now alien to the art of war. To do so, they needed something unorthodox, a left field pivot, a Hail Mary. And in a time where reality television thrived, the unthinkable was conceived.
So we're $44 million in the hole. We start working really hard on trying to figure out how to get on fucking television.
We went out and we pitched to every network you could imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I had to fly to places and literally had to wait outside people's offices for them to come out and grab them. Nobody wants it. They're terrified to put this thing on. This was something that was banned and marketed as the brutal, most violent sport in the world. We end up getting to a point where Spike TV, the men's network. We meet with these guys and we pitch them on the idea for the Ultimate Fighter. All these guys live in a house, they train together, but at the end of every episode, there's a live fight. They don't like it.
I mean, we'd already pitched them 2 or 3 times, and they looked at us like, this isn't going to work. This is crazy. You know, young males don't like this. And we're like, gosh, we think you're wrong.
We called them back a few days later and said, how about if we pay for it and give it to you for free? Oh, they like that idea a lot better. So we paid $10 million
Imagine paying
for the first season
to
of The Ultimate Fighter.
show your
First
product.
episode
I mean,
paid
it's
1.3 million viewers.
The Ultimate Fighter.
10 million. They bought it for 2 million. They have to pay 10 million, and they are 44 million down the drain, bro.
You have to understand,
How did they not give
the
up?
pressure and the stress that we're under, this is the last shot. If this thing doesn't work, the UFC is done.
Much like the UFC as a whole to begin with, the Ultimate Fighter was out of place, unorthodox, and with little support outside of its creators. But they had an in. A small window, yes, but that was all they needed. All the more impressive was the Ultimate Fighter's rapid viral success in a world that wasn't even equipped for it. In the mid-2000s, the seeds of social media had only just begun to sprout, meaning the show's explosive rise was built solely off of word of mouth. Though impressive, scoring good ratings and finally cracking the mainstream, even if only a little, the higher-ups of Spike TV, those who would essentially decide the UFC's fate, remained radio silent. And as the maiden season's finale loomed, a duel between 2 warriors shown live to the masses for the very first time, the hope and optimism was dwindling. Dana needed something special to put not just the broadcaster on notice, but the millions at home. And 2 men would finally grant him that wish.
We're sweating it the whole fucking season, right up to the finale. It's unbelievably successful, and we honestly didn't know if we were gonna have a second season. We go into the finale, then Forrest and Stephan Bonner.
Oof.
Yes.
We are anticipating a slugfest. And
I
here we
heard
go.
they are like the reason the UFC is where they are is because of this 2 fight. Wow.
During the fight, people are stomping their feet and people are cheering and going crazy, and people at home who are watching the fight start to call their friends. And the number just starts to grow and grow and grow and grow.
It's just an unbelievable.
By the way, like back in the day, how did they know like if the viewers is growing, you know, when there was no internet? Like, do they cable companies know, like when you open their channel, is that how it works?
Nice exchange. Good punches by Bonner inside. Forrest get the tie clinch.
Toe to toe, knock down, drag him out.
Chuck.
We ended up giving both guys a UFC contract that night, which made the place even go crazier.
And we're going to offer Stephan Bonner a 6-figure contract with the UFC.
Wow. That was the right
the realms
decision.
of combat sports that define eras, heralded as some of the most iconic ever.
Oh, Hearns may have hurt him with the right hand. He hurt another right.
Deserving of their spot in the hallowed halls of fame. They didn't know it yet, but Bonner and Griffin had not just made history, but saved the company from total extinction. They had shown the world what the sport could become and what being a fighter truly meant. Not spitting harsh words on press
You can see how
microphones,
happy
nor donning a
Dana is
mask
right
persona.
there, even
It was
like
about
everybody's
staring down
laughing,
adversity,
cheering.
physical and mental. Biting down on the gum shield and leaving a part of yourself in the octagon once the final bell is rung. Finally now, those other than the athletes and the
Look at
company who
Dana
shepherded them would see the
smiling.
appeal, the thrill of the fight. And it was there, moments after history was unknowingly made in the cage, that it would be made out of it too.
Spike pulled us aside, said, hey, we want to do a new deal. We want to re-up you for another season of The Ultimate Fighter.
The next deal for Spike was literally cut in the alley out where all the trucks are.
In the back of the parking lot.
After that fight,
On a napkin that night. That's how close we were to not making
A
it.
resounding success for the UFC and its owners, saving it from the brink of failure. But the Ultimate Fighter spoke to something more sinister in the future. For it was the first clear sign that entertainment and storylines were valued more than the Octagon's jewels. In many ways, the debacle was ironic. In initially doing away with the theatrics and unorthodoxy that the old owners prided themselves on, Wyatt and the Fertitta's last gasp play was a thematic return to the days of old. But the problems that would bring were yet to come to the fore. The Ultimate Fighting Championship was here to stay.
Like we
The
said,
golden era from 2009 to 2015. I wish I was a fan during this time. Ooh.
The Golden Age represents a time, a period of utopian nature, and following the explosive success of The Ultimate Fighter, the UFC had finally evolved from an investment gambit to a surefire success on the financial front. With help of the merged roster from an acquisition of Pride, the UFC had cultivated a healthy list of stars. George St. Pierre